All right. Well, we're pleased to bring the Demo Day series back. We have today with us Matt Jensen, Director of the Open Source Policy Center at AEI. And Matt's going to talk to us today about various ways to install Tax Calculator on your machine. Matt, please.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. We are looking at Tax Calculator today. Here I am at the PSLmodels.org homepage for the Policy Simulation Library. If you forget the Tax Calculator user guide website, this is a good place to come. Go to the catalog. This is where you can find all of the catalog PSL models. Click on models, come down to Tax Calculator. We see here it says Tax Calculator is an open source microsimulation model for static analysis of USA federal income and payroll taxes, and that's what we'll be doing a little bit of today. I'll note that you can use Tax Calculator with other tools like behavioral responses, OGUSA, and other models to do non-static analysis if that's something that you're interested in. Let's hop to the Tax Calculator website. The code repository is on GitHub is available here. We're not going to go there today. We're going to go look at user documentation. This you can find directly at taxcalc.pslmodels.org if you'd like to go there directly. Okay, first step. What the goal for today, I guess before we get into the first step, the goal for today is to install TaxCalc locally on your machine, make sure it runs, and make sure you can use it. You can also use TaxCalc in the cloud, TaxBrain, which is at compute.studio. There it is. So you can also use Tax Calculator in the cloud. It's got a limited set of functionality, so you might want to use it locally. So today we're not going to use Tax Calculator in the cloud. We're going to go back here. We're going to install things locally. First step, come look at the user guide because it has a lot of useful information here, including a guide for installing. We're going to walk through a little bit of this today, as well as a great deal of documentation of input variables, output variables, how the model works, the model structure, even a little bit of history is here. It's a good website to poke around in if you're interested in doing microsimulation modeling with an open source model. If you don't already have Anaconda distribution of Python installed on your machine, you'll need to do that first. I'm going to skip that step because I didn't want to uninstall Anaconda for this demo, but I did uninstall TaxCalc for this demo, and we can start here with using Conda to install TaxCalc. I'm going to open up a terminal and just go ahead and pop that in there. Conda install, it's going to get it from this Conda Forge, is where the package is at. We're going to grab TaxCalc. As it installs, I'll note that if you go to getting started right here, the first step again, install Anaconda, and next step, download the TaxCalc package. That's what we're doing right now. Other things you might want to do if you want to get more involved in the community include getting registered as a GitHub user and logging onto GitHub, where you can ask questions about the project, request enhancements, report bugs, propose code changes. How to do that is all documented on this website. Let's pop back over to our terminal, see how things are going.
Hey, Matt, can I ask you a question? This is Rick Evans.
Hey, Rick.
So you talked about getting a GitHub account potentially if you want to do more with this. And right now you're downloading Tax Calculator through the Anaconda Conda package manager.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to go through just downloading the source code directly from the GitHub repository? In which case someone, I guess there's a way to do it without having a GitHub account, but it seems like the easiest way is having a GitHub account. So are you going to show that also, how to just get all the source code?
I might show it in a future demo, but today I just want to go streamlined how to do the easiest thing possible, which is get TaxCalc installed with Conda Package Manager. Okay. But if you get interested in that and want to do it, if someone listening is interested in that and wants to do it before I prepare that next demo day, you can come here to the user guide and go down to this contributing guide section here, and it'll talk to you about how to get the developer copy of TaxCalc that's on GitHub, which is not fully tested. It's not gone through the package release process. It's not had all the sign-offs on the release, but if you want to get the developer version of the copy, there's a guide here on how to do that through the contributor guide, and you can grab it from GitHub. Did that answer what you need, Rick?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Okay. Okay. So TaxCalc is now installed. We're going to jump over, just following along here. We're going to jump over to the user guide, and we're going to work with the TC interface, the command line interface. So this way, you don't even have to use Python on your machine. If you want to use the Python interface, that's all documented here too. But again, just to keep it easy peasy today, let's use the TC command line interface, which does not require our users to use Python. And just to make sure everything's here, we're going to do a little test. But before we do the test, I want to make sure the test is going to actually write some files onto my computer to show me that everything's working right. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and pop into a new directory. Let's just see where I want to go. And I'll make a new directory for this. Let's call it TaxCalc install demo. And then I'm going to run the test from that directory. So now I'm in the TC TaxCalc install demo directory. I'm going to go ahead and run the test. So TC test is going to show that everything, if it is installed on my machine, it's going to show that it's installed on my machine. If it's not, it's going to give it failure. This will take just a moment to run. And then, like I said, it's going to create some files that show me that the test worked, what the test did. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to modify those files and go ahead and rerun everything on our own, just to show us that we know how to do things ourselves. What it's telling us here is in the test, there's no data extrapolation happening. We're purely just running TaxCalc on a static file and running it in a base year tax microsimulation. This takes a couple of minutes, and here we passed. Okay, so let's look in and see what that did. So I'm just going to list the files in the directory, and then we can see everything here. I typically use the Sublime text editor to look at files, but assuming that this is a beginner level audience, let's go ahead and just check these out. Well, we can open the docs here. So test 18 pound doc.txt. Let's go ahead and open this in Sublime. Then I'll open the other ones in the Numbers app on Mac, so you don't have to look at CSVs in this text editor. So what did we do here in this test? It just went ahead. It didn't use any default growth assumptions. Again, we're just testing everything works. We didn't use any different growth. And we also didn't use any reform. We're just looking at current law policy in this test. It's the simplest thing that can happen to make sure the TC is working on your machine. If you get to this point, then I guess we've satisfied the beginning, the main goal today, which is to show that you've got everything installed. But rather than let everything rest there, let's go ahead and do a little modification of the test so that we can make sure that we know how to actually use a thing and not just install it. And I'm not going to show you how to use a lot of it. I'm just going to show you how to use the tiniest bit of the surface area of the package. So what do we want to do next? Let's go ahead and look at this test.csv file, which is it's a couple of records, tax records for representing tax filing units. And I'll show it to you. I'm not going to show it to you in the Sublime text editor. I'm going to show it to you in Numbers because that's easier. Now this is going to pop open Numbers. Okay. So what do we have here? We have a record ID. We have a marital status. We have the number of exemptions. This is in TCJA. Since TCJA, we don't have the personal exemption anymore, but it's still a kind of a fundamental unit of tax calculator. We have the number of qualifying children for the earned income credit. And we have a number of income variables. If you want to learn about all these variables, which you'll need to if you want to be a tax calculator user, the place to find out about them all is in this input variables list on the documentation. Let's see, EIC is right here, a number of earned income credit qualifying children. Schedule EIC, so if you're still unsure of what it's referring to, you can actually go look at the tax form schedule. Another marital status, let's look at the documentation for Mars. There it is. Filing marital status. 1 is single, 2 is joint, 3 is separate, 4 is head of household, 5 is widowed. You can go through all of these. Again, we're not going to use these income variables today, but just to give you a peek at them, we can look at E00200. This says wages, salaries, and tips for the filing unit. And again, it shows you where to go find it on the form. You can similarly look at output variables if you want to learn about all the output variables the tax calculator creates. You go here. Again, my goal right now is just to show you where to find everything that you'll need as a introductory tax calculator user. Let's go back to numbers. Let's go ahead and modify this. So I guess create a new CSV, which we will run ourselves and make sure everything is working. So let's get rid of the income. We're just going to have a couple of records that don't have any income at all. So let's get rid of those, delete columns. Let's add a new column just for fun for the number of qualifying individuals. We don't want for the child tax credit. So this is children under 17. They have to meet some other qualification standards as well. We can go look at that documentation. And 24, right there, description of children who are child tax credit eligible. So what do we want this to look like? We'll have the first row, first record. So this is joint filer. They've got 1 kid. Let's go ahead and say that EIC eligible kid, earned income credit eligible kid, is also eligible for the child tax credit. And then for the second row, let's go ahead and make this person a head of household filer. So it's just an adult and a child. We can make them eligible for both earned income credit and child tax credit. Marital status 4 is the head of household. There are only 2 people in this household, the child and the parent, so we've got 2 exemptions. Let's just go ahead and add a third row. Again, record ID, this one's 3. Now let's have this just be a single person, no kids. Okay, and then we're going to save this, or we're going to export it as a CSV file. Let's call this test modified.csv. And let's put it in the same directory we were just in. Okay, let's go check in the terminal to see whether it's there. We hope so. There it is, test modified.csv right there. So let's go ahead and run, we're just static, current law, no reform here. That's something for a different demo day. We're just gonna run current law on these households, on these tax filing units for 2021, I suppose. So test modified.csv 2021. And things, it's either going to run or it's going to tell me that I left off a data attribute that I needed. It'll give you a little warning if you do that. I'll give you a warning if you used one that doesn't work. So if I had spelled N24 with the uppercase, N24 would give me a warning telling me that's not recognized, but it appears that I did everything properly, and it's going to go ahead with the calculation. While it goes ahead with the calculation, I just want to tell you that you can use this model for current law policy, which is all we're doing here. This is the law that's enacted by Congress. You can also run reform analyses. By the way to do that, go look at the policy parameters. In the user guide, there's a section on doing reform analysis, and it just adds one layer of complexity to what we're doing here. Okay, so it ran. Let's go in and see what it created. So it created these test modified files. Right now, I'm just looking in the directory. I listed all the files in the directory. Let's go ahead and look at the out file for this, where we'll have the results. One pound CSV. Command not found because I didn't tell it where to open the file. Let's go ahead and tell it where to open it. Let's do it in numbers again. Numbers. Okay. So what do we have here? Record ID, year, the weights. We didn't give these any weights because they're just, it doesn't matter for what we're doing. It tells us the income tax liability. It tells us the lump sum tax liability. There is no lump sum tax that that would be part of reform analysis. We didn't add any here. It shows it's the payroll tax liability. Again, there's no payroll tax because these tax units, none of them had any payroll income. So let's just, I'm going to open up, I'm going to put these side by side so you can see them. These were the records. The first record, marital status, filing jointly with one child. So it's a household of 3. They've got a tax liability. They've got a refund. They're going to get a refund of $7,200. The second, this is the head of household with one child. They're going to have a refund of $5,800. And the third, just a single person filing singly with no children. They'll have a tax refund of $1,400. So if you want to understand all of the intermediate calculations, you can do that using various other tools in the tax calculator library. One thing we can do to get at that here is to look at yeah, well, I guess if you want to see all of the intermediate calculations, the best recommendation for you is to use the tax cruncher tool, which is very good for showing intermediate calculations. So what I mean by that is, of this refund, what component is that coming from the earned income credit, which portion of that is coming from the child tax credit, what portion of that is coming from other components of the individual income tax code. You can find all that using the tax cruncher tool. And that you can find just by going to pslmodels.org. Models down here under tax cruncher. You can use the exact same input file for tax cruncher that we just used with tax calculator. That's something that's cool here. And then if you want to do the same analysis, but if you want to use a more detailed data set, then one thing you can do is you come back to the tax calculator documentation. You can look at data for tax calculator. And there are 2 options here that you can use. One is a file prepared from the current population survey, which has some limitations because of the limitations in the current population survey, but it's relatively useful for doing population level analyses. And you can also, if you'd like to purchase the public use file, it's called the public use file, but it costs about $10,000. You can purchase it from the Internal Revenue Service and do more complicated analysis with population level data. What I've shown you today is how to install TaxCalc, how to ensure that it's working, and how to make some modifications to the test that comes with the TaxCalc installation to ensure that you know how to make some minor changes and do analysis by yourself with TaxCalc. I think that's enough for today. So I'll turn it over to any questions if we have them.
Matt, no questions, but that was really helpful illustration of how to get up and running with Tax Calculator. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for tuning in today, and please check back on the PSL models events page. Let me just show you that real quick before we sign off. If you'd like to learn more about demo days or other events that the PSL community has planned. The community calls every other Tuesday at 3 p.m. Everyone's welcome to these demo days. Everyone is welcome to these different developer meetings. Everyone is welcome to. Later this month, March, in DC, we'll be hosting a bigger in-person event in DC that folks are welcome to. And if you can't find all the information that you want about that, just feel free to email myself or one of the other PSL models community members. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Matt.